all you really need is, even if you get 1 or 2 inquiries that work per year, and they keep buying, you're seeing a customer lifetime value of millions of dollars. You know, for us, out of 5 inquiries, 1 or even up to 2 could turn into a legitimate sale.
Mixed in terms of these events. Anuga is coming up as well in a few weeks. What is your view on that? How do you stand out? How do you get that potential business card coming in?
You don't necessarily have to go to the most expensive or the most prominent or the most sought after trade fair.
Okay. Hello everyone, welcome to a new episode of Change the Conversation. Today we're focusing on the export industry and international marketing. We've got an entrepreneur who is reshaping a legacy industry with innovative products and an interesting marketing strategy. Let's get at it. Welcome back everyone. Today we have someone very special with us. So he is the founder, CEO of Ceylon Exports and Trading, Dulara De Alwis. Welcome. So Dulara, in a short span of 5 years, you've become one of the most prominent exporters of coconut edible products. Tell us your story, how it started and your journey so far.
Sure, Shezri. So when I started, I was not from a coconut background, nor was I in exports. But I had a vision to want to integrate something authentic, premium of Sri Lanka with the world. At the time, there was a factory up for sale in the Coconut Triangle. Okay. So I thought it was a great way to follow my aspirations. At the time, I didn't have the full capital, so I pitched to a set of investors. One angel investor who happened to come from a family of plantations under their name, over 1,000 acres. He backed me. And we started very small. So we started as a shipper of LCL shipments. So that stands for less than cargo load. So small pallets. But now in the span of 5 years, we've grown to sending a couple of containers a month and to over 20 countries.
Nice. See, when I think of coconut, this is me. I see a legacy industry with tea and rubber. So when I find someone like you choosing coconut as the industry to go for, it's unusual. So my simple question is, why the coconut industry?
Sure. So Shezri, I've always had this perspective of sticking to the old, but doing something that the younger generation wouldn't go into. So what I always saw was the younger generation was interested in tech, financial services. So when I saw an industry such as the coconut industry, because as you rightfully said, it's been there for literally over 100 years, from the time of the Portuguese, and actually for 2,000 years in Sri Lankan history, but more of a commercial sense in the last 200 years.
Yes.
But for me to get involved in that as a first generation entrepreneur, I felt that doing something in a new way in the legacy industry also had tremendous value. And I hopefully we can get more into that.
Later on. Yes, definitely. So I've obviously done some background about what you've been up to and some of your thought leadership content. You have always been an advocate for entrepreneurs to go out there to the international markets. Sometimes even telling why do testing in Sri Lanka, straight away try international market. Tell us about that and why you think that way.
Sure. I would boil it down to really 2 reasons.
Okay.
One is the total population and the second one is the per capita income. So if you take most of Sri Lankan products, if you take our agri products, they're premium and rightfully so. They're authentic, they're higher value, perhaps they taste better or they smell better or has higher health benefits. Mm-hmm. Now, a product like that should ideally go to a market that can afford it. Sure. And given that Sri Lanka is a medium per capita income country, around $4,000 at least, that's what it was in 2019. But if you take the average of some of the developed countries, you're talking of at least $12,000 per capita. If you take something like the US, it's $50,000 plus. Sure. Much of Western Europe is also about $30,000. Sure. So you're naturally going to find an audience that can afford these products and actually pay a premium for it because they understand the value of it. They understand some of them are superfoods, they understand the health benefits or the taste or the origin and the authentic story behind it. That's number one. And the second one is the population. Sri Lanka has 20 million plus people, but the world has over 5 billion. If you take the US is 330 million, Germany itself is over 70, 80 million. So when you target countries that both have a higher populace and a higher per capita spending power, you're naturally increasing your ability to succeed. So you need to then kind of get maybe even 0.1% of this audience or of a population or segment to succeed commercially. So and as you rightfully said, so even when you're trialing it, obviously if you could and if you can harness your strategy that way, it's always better to do that. But again, I would like to say that I feel it applies to most Sri Lankan products, but maybe not all of them.
Okay.
But it's so I think what I would like to say is that there's a statement that I've heard in Sri Lanka the last few years: start local, go global.
Yeah.
So what I say is actually, start global, right? That you don't necessarily have to start local, but I understand obviously the logic starting local if you can start local.
So now I'm going to move to the most interesting part of this podcast that I've been looking forward to talk to you about, which is the marketing aspect of it. So obviously this is something that we want to focus on, where you can actually market your products internationally. I would like to hear your thoughts on how you approached marketing for your products.
Sure. So as I said before, so I started as a first generation entrepreneur in the coconut industry, which is quite rare. Perhaps there are others, but to the extent of someone running a manufacturing export company, we happen to be one of the very few, or probably the only one in the coconut sector. Now, when we were entering the industry, what happened is the legacy businesses had a lot more capital. Mm-hmm. So their approach was going to trade fairs to find buyers. Now, in the first few years, we just did not have the capital to go to trade fairs. The trade fairs could cost anything from a minimum of $10,000 to $30,000. Sure. And if you spend even $10,000, you're going to have a smaller booth, and you kind of look a bit trivial in the grand scheme of things. Yeah. So we had to find different ways to get international customers. So what we focused on was digital. When I say digital, one of our primary wins was SEO. So maybe don't quote me on this, but almost any market I go to internationally, if I type on Google, coconut oil exporters from Sri Lanka or organic coconut oil from Sri Lanka, our website generally comes on the top. So the opportunity we've had with SEO also had to do with that the rest of the players were legacy players, maybe older generation. They perhaps didn't understand that, thus giving our company a bit of an opportunity. Because see, in our business, the way it works is the inquiry would lead to not just buying a bottle of oil. It will range from a pallet to a container, which is as small as $5,000 to $30,000. So all you really need is, even if you get one or two inquiries that work per year, and they keep buying, you're seeing a customer lifetime value of millions of dollars. Over a few years in terms of sales, whilst what the effort which you put into SEO may be very minimal. I think we'll get into that.
So actually on that particular topic, see, there is a notion that especially on B2B, 10% of your leads are ready to buy right now, and 90% is yes in the category, but they're just shopping around, maybe not an immediate lead or immediate requirement, so to speak. Have you experienced that? What is your lead nurturing process and so on when you first get that lead from your website coming through? How do you nurture those who are not willing to buy right now? Have they come back and bought from you 12 months later? How do you approach those dynamics?
Sure. So, yes. In terms of the numbers, I would say it's a bit difficult to say, okay, is it 10% that's really looking to buy immediately or 90%? I can say there are definitely customers who would email and maybe just shopping around or fishing around or trying to get a feel of the prices. That's normal.
So obviously you're no longer a startup, you're actually medium to eventually a large scale, hopefully, organization. But we all have limited marketing budgets. What would your approach be to that marketing budget? I know you mentioned SEO, search engine optimization. How would you use that in terms of resources, marketing resources, ad spend, or purely writing content, which you are doing well? How would you split in your industry or your product that you're...
Sure. So before even getting into content and digital marketing, just like an old school approach of, finding contact lists, directories, and email.
Okay.
So I should mention that because it wasn't just SEO. I would say initially it was maybe 70% of that, and eventually the SEO took over, which was just getting directories of buyers and maybe sending 100 emails a day.
Okay.
Right. And because it's a export business, it's a B2B oriented business. All you need is one buyer to work on.
Emails are not dead anymore, was not dead to begin with.
Yeah, it definitely was not dead when we started.
Okay.
One thing I regret now is I have so much on my plate. Sometimes I feel I don't send out enough emails, which is not good.
Okay.
So obviously my first year I was hungrier. I would send emails from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Okay.
Just crunching. So obviously getting the directories. Maybe you work with embassies worldwide to get what the relevant customers. Maybe when you send to 100, all you need, maybe 5 might reply and 1 might convert. But that is essentially all you may need. So that's point number 1, and that should be the bedrock, and that just takes effort.
Sure.
Right. Zero, absolutely zero cost. Just effort.
Yeah.
Now going into using SEO, etc. To be entirely honest, it's some of the, now if you look at the way we've approached it, at least on our website, some of the best performing articles are just annual reports. We write on the industry. Now even if you write now coconut market performance 2020, we are likely
I learned a lot thanks to your article about the coconut industry prior to this podcast, so thanks for that. Yeah.
So but that has to do with I think I think it's probably not right of me to just mention SEO, but to also maybe I think for each one there are different bedrocks of how the platform works.
Sure.
But simply said, SEO is as good as the content the audience is looking for.
Okay.
So if you're giving something the audience is looking for,
sure,
that's a SEO. So before you even think of SEO, think of becoming an expert in your product. I mean, whatever that may be. It could be cinnamon, pepper, fruit, organic fruit from whichever, whatever you're trying to export, or even apparel, I would assume that's also okay, is to become a thought leader. I think that there are people out there in the world who have various questions that they're just jotting on Google. So the more you can answer these, the better. Now on that approach, it's then the second step is knowing that people are out there searching for various different questions, is putting content out there. Sure. Now, to do it at scale, maybe at the beginning you yourself can write an article a month. Sure. Maybe if you're trying to save money free of charge. But if not, there are people in Sri Lanka, there are agencies around the world. To be entirely honest, maybe I shouldn't say this.
If you're going to say something bad about the agency, just know that you are an agency.
No, but I'm not going to say anything bad about the agency. I'm just going to share something that I don't think we've spent more than $100 to $200 a month ever on getting to where we've gone.
Sure. No, fair enough.
Right?
Sure.
But that also has to do with the rest of the industry. No, I mean, I don't think it's possible for us to do that in the field Shezri is in, because there's so much competition, so many other players also trying to dominate that space. Is a bit different for us. But
I think what you're trying to say is you can start.
You can start,
and with your own effort, bit of thought leadership, understanding of market trends, you can actually create good content that will get you traction.
That's right.
Yeah, so I think it's a very valid point. We sometimes get bogged down with the budgets, the numbers, that we take time to realize that we can start things without spending much money.
You can start at zero.
Perfect. Actually, Actually, yours is a brilliant example of SEO content. Reading some of your articles, you've gone into a lot of details. The quality aspect is really good. You can see there's a lot of depth in it, and what we know is that's what Google ranks higher. The quality, the relevance, and so on. It's brilliant. On that topic of being a thought leader, knowing the trends and so on, let's talk about your new product in the market. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. Noots.
Noots.
Yeah? Let's talk about that a bit.
Sure. So now that we've been in this journey for 5 years, so what we saw about 2 years ago was a lack of a plant-based milk alternative with the coconut milk base in the world market. Now, what do I mean by that? If you travel internationally, you're going to see a lot of oat milks, almond milks, soy milks in beverage format, positioned for the dairy-free vegan market, but nothing made from coconut milk as a beverage.
Sure.
So what we wanted to do was, our vision was to introduce the world's first coconut smoothie.
Sure.
So product made entirely from a coconut milk base, but coupled with what's good about Sri Lanka, authentically Sri Lankan. So we coupled it with tropical fruits, organic tropical fruits from Sri Lanka. We initially trialed it with really 9 different, so from banana to wood apple to passion fruit, but we launched it with 3 fruits, real mango, real pineapple, and real papaya, but we also hope to expand that in the future. And the way we did that was we also consulted Dutch food technology experts. Okay. And there are organizations, there's an organization in Sri Lanka called PUM, okay. So it's actually an extension of the Dutch government, okay. Where they offer somewhat retired PhD scientists.
Nice.
And they come down to Sri Lanka, and the Dutch government pays for it. Maybe you have to incur their accommodation, sure, or some smaller nominal charge, sure. But they come with essentially decades of experience, having developed similar products. So they are able to de-risk and perhaps you're stuck in a technical production process that you want to overcome. So they supported us, and to be entirely honest, so a product like this was never done in Sri Lanka before and in the world. So the validation took several trials. But something like coconut smoothies is an expensive project to get into, because the one trial just to see if this product will work out is a few million rupees.
Oh, okay.
Because the fixed cost of a UHT run, which we have to do to make a Noots batch, is very high.
Okay. So
this was only made possible for us as a company because of success in our core business, sure, over the first few years. But what we wanted to do was, heart of our company, innovate and give, sure, something valuable to the consumer, and most importantly, to uplift the value chain. Sure. And so that's the way I'm always thinking, okay, how can we uplift the farming and processing communities? Sure. If for the next 100 years we're still selling, the commoditized products, sure, that's not going to add any value to the farmers or the processors, and it's going to be a loop of poverty. At least this is how I see it. So Noots coconut smoothie, at least for me, was sure it was going to add tremendous value to the consumer, high in MCT fats, coconut milk, refreshing beverage, but also uplifts, sure, eventually, yeah, the people that matter the, yep, most, right? So yes, and thus we're here. So Noots thus far, we launched it officially in January after a year and a half of R&D. So we are now selling in Germany, Singapore, and Sri Lanka. So we're at premium Kiehl's outlets. Just loading a container to Germany.
Just
so
put it in there at the Kiehl's.
Yeah.
No, but yes, I actually ordered mine. It's on the way from Uber, so hopefully I'm looking forward to it as well. My next question, so new product.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your go-to-market with that new product. Firstly, let's talk about how you analyze that trend, maybe as an opportunity, and now how do you actually go to market and promote it?
Sure. So having been in the food and beverage space for 5 years, the growth of the vegan segment, the lactose-free segments, those are kind of in your face. Yeah. It's unavoidable. And rightfully so. People are concerned about vegan. It could be for 2 reasons. One is ethical reasons. One is because of climate change. People believe, the cattle industry, one of the largest emitters of greenhouse gas. So people are moving towards plant-based alternative. Likewise, allergies are growing. So dairy allergies are high, etc. So also we obviously did research as well, and some of the ways we identify the markets we go into also involves researching, okay, how much of a percentage really values a vegan, dairy-free, and an authentic experience from Sri Lanka. It's not just that, and the reason why we went down a tropical route is because when we did market surveys in Netherlands and in countries like Germany, they rated the tropical experience very high for something coming out of Sri Lanka.
Interesting. Okay.
Hence the reason why there's the tropical energy of Noots. So the way and your second question was in terms of marketing. Yes. So this is all new to us. Selling a beverage is new to us. So we are also trialing different approaches. So I have to be honest. We do a lot of sampling demonstrations. So activations is the word we use it. I know you're as an ex Unilever person, you know all about it. It's about getting as many people to try the product, and the segment that likes it ideally continues to buy. If they see it in the store, they continue to buy. And there's various different formats. So whenever we are maybe selling in a market, we might, let's say if you're in the store, we might put a branded chiller of our own, or we might do a social media marketing in the geography, like a boost. So those are the kind of the different approaches we've used thus far. Again, very new. We're still trialing it out. But yeah.
Okay. So you talked about notes and go-to-market, going to exhibitions and so on, which leads to my next question of trade fairs. I've had mixed opinions about the effectiveness of trade fair due to simple fact that it's very difficult to stand out. What are your views on them? Has attending trade fairs worked for you? Any views?
Sure. To be honest, the first 4 years we went to 0 trade fairs. And the reason for that was, in my first year, I went as a visitor to some of these global ones like Gulf Foods, to meet customers on the sidelines, so not to exhibit directly. And one thing I learned straight away was that, at least in the Sri Lankan pavilions, there would be 6-7 coconut exporters stacked next to each other, selling the exact same products, and the customers would come, ask one person for the product and the price, and just go to the next one. And so I did feel at the time it was counterproductive, especially for a smaller company like ours, because we were anyway going to be looked at from a negative light, given that those companies had decades of reputation.
Sure.
So hence the reason why we used a different approach at the beginning. We went with the email marketing and SEO. Now that being said, we've been very active with trade fairs in 2023. The reason is because we introduced our Noots coconut smoothie range, and it's the world's first coconut smoothie. So you're naturally gonna set yourself apart, and what comes naturally with a beverage like ours is sampling. So we have to be in front of people, sampling, and given that it's tropical energy, it's a young brand, we felt that we can make a huge impact being at fairs, and I feel we've been somewhat successful in doing that. Some of the content is up on social media, but that being said, even us, and this also perhaps goes to SMEs, you don't necessarily have to go to the most expensive or the most prominent or the most sought after trade fair. People always lay out the big names every year, from Sial to Anuga to Gulf Foods, but there are boutique fairs around the world. Some that may focus on organic products, some that may focus on sustainable products, and the participation on them are generally sometimes a lot cheaper. Maybe even a third, or maybe even a tenth of the cost. So, but there's always the counter argument that the big players say, but you never get the big buyers at those trade fairs. But at the same time, as a SME especially, those companies should look for, okay, what is what makes sense in terms of the marketing spend you want to put into a trade fair versus what you're going to get out of it. Because you definitely don't want to go in, like let's say it's your first year or second year in the business and you go out there and you lay out 5 million rupees and you felt that you couldn't set yourself apart with the product range you had. You know, when you come back home, you're going to, you know, not feel very good.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that being said, as I said before, for nude smoothies, we felt it was a time, we felt we had a product that differentiated naturally, and thus we did trade fairs. So that's really my view on it.
What should businesses do going into international marketing? Some key 3 topics that they should focus on to ensure success in those markets.
Sure. So every product is different. So you know, it's difficult to push a cookie cutter approach. So it's important to try out as many things as possible, maybe as low cost as possible and as fast as possible. Perhaps, you know, as we've discussed, Google and SEO work for us, but for someone else it could be TikTok, maybe even LinkedIn or some newer format. So I, especially for maybe very young companies, trialing out different things and realizing what works and then doubling down on them. So what happens is, I've realized, especially perhaps with the younger generation, you know, it's important because even in social media, Instagram is more visible, is more personable. So sometimes you get caught up with, I mean, people in general get caught up with the Instagram image than what may actually work for the business. So it's So it's important to understand whatever works for the business, whether that's visible to the masses or not, matters a lot. See, because something like Google for us, I don't think the vast majority of Sri Lankans would know that we're number one on Google, but it doesn't matter. It pays the bills, it creates jobs. So once you understand that and trial out different things, is to double down on that. That being said, I feel I know probably 1% of the digital space, probably even less. I constantly consult people who I feel are experts. I ask them for advice. I try to learn. Even to this day, I feel I'm not doing enough. But that being said, as you said, Shezri, being the domain expert, just starting with that, as small as possible over time. See, this whole aspect of being a domain expert was told to me by a person I knew maybe 4 years ago, probably 6 months into my coconut business. And it made sense to me. But I did take it to heart, but now I look back over 5 years and it's interesting because my friends friends overseas, they'd be like, oh, King of Coconuts or Mr. Coconut. So it's funny because they probably see me that way now because I'm sharing content along the coconut lines, etc. Without any intention for that name, But I think it's something that, if you are giving information on your field that's valuable to the people, eventually that reputation is going to be harnessed around you. It takes time. It takes time and effort, and I think us being on and consistency, I should say that.
Consistency is key.
Time, effort, and consistency, and I feel, look, there's no cookie cutter approach. It worked for us, fortunately, but I'm sure there are different strategies that will work for other companies.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dulara, for your time. That brings to an end another series which changed the conversation. We'll see you next month with someone really interesting for you marketers to talk about something that's trending that will help your marketing efforts as well. See you soon.